Here's a handout.
Oh, I can only read Chinese.
I don't have one for you. Okay. So we'll go over the handout when I get halfway through this so I can explain what's on there. Are saturated fats good for you? We grew up learning that we need a diet rich in animal products so that our bones and brain can grow properly. Dairy Council states, young children need the extra energy, fat, and vitamin A in whole milk compared to lower fat varieties, which are important for growth and development. Is this American way of teaching correct? According to Center for Disease Control and Prevention, heart disease is the leading cause of death in men and women. It affects around 630,000 Americans each year. That means one in every 4 deaths is because of this disease. What is causing so many Americans to die at a young age? Could saturated fats be linked to so many individuals dying? During this speech, I'm going to be discussing what saturated, polyunsaturated, and monounsaturated fats are, what heart disease is, and how it affects individuals, and why saturated fats are linked to heart disease, and how you can lower your risk. First, I'm going to discuss what fat does for our bodies and why is it important to consume these healthy fats. Fats help us to regulate our energy. They store nutrients like vitamin A, D, E, and K. Fats make up our cell membranes and much of our brains. They coat our nerves, lubricate our joints, and they help transport hormones and minerals through the bloodstream. There are unhealthy fats that deteriorate your health and healthy fats that support a healthy heart. Next, I will be discussing what are considered healthy and unhealthy fats. What is saturated, polyunsaturated, and monounsaturated fat? The American Heart Association describes saturated fats as fat molecules that have no double bonds between carbon molecules because they are saturated with hydrogen molecules. These fats become solid at room temperature and occur naturally in animal sources. American Heart Association gives examples of foods with saturated fats. These can be fatty beef, lamb, pork, poultry with skin, beef fat, lard, cream, butter, cheese, eggs, and products made from whole or reduced fat milk. According to the American Heart Association, healthy fats that your body needs are monounsaturated and polyunsaturated. These fats help reduce LDL cholesterol, which is your bad cholesterol, and benefit insulin and blood sugar levels, and decrease the risk of type 2 diabetes. Example of foods high in monounsaturated fats are olive oil, canola oil, peanut oil, sesame oil, and various nuts. Examples of polyunsaturated fats are avocados, walnuts, almonds, pistachios, nut and seed butter, olives, ground flaxseed, salmon, tuna, tofu, edamame, chia, millet, and wheat bran. The American Heart Association says eating healthier fats could save more than 1 million people worldwide from dying from heart disease each year. Now that you understand what is considered a healthy and unhealthy fat, let's look at what heart disease is and how it is affecting our bodies. What is cardiovascular disease? Heart and blood vessel disease includes many problems, many of which are related to a process called atherosclerosis. I hope I said that right. Atherosclerosis is a condition that develops when plaque builds up in the walls of the arteries. So if you look at your handout, you have what a normal artery is supposed to look like, what one that looks like that's starting to build up, and one that's completely clogged. So it says, according to Livestrong.com, plaque is a mixture of fibrous and fatty accumulation that can narrow your arteries. Clogged arteries restrict the movement of oxygen and blood throughout your body. This buildup narrows the arteries, making it hard for blood to flow properly. If a blood clot forms, it can block this flow and can cause a heart attack or a stroke because it immediately cuts off the blood flow to your heart. And so, yeah. If this clot cuts off the blood flow completely, the part of the heart muscle supplied by that artery begins to die. Many individuals survive their first heart attack and return to their normal lives, but they need to make a lifestyle change so they can live a life free of plaque buildup. Now that you understand what cardiovascular disease is, I'm going to explain why saturated fats are linked to this disease and how you can lower your risk of this happening to you. Heart attack and stroke symptoms suggest eating foods that contain saturated fats raises your level of cholesterol in your blood. High levels of LDL cholesterol in your blood increases your risk of heart disease and stroke. According to Health.com, clogged arteries are thought to be caused by various factors, including high blood pressure, blood sugar, and cholesterol. According to Livestrong, the foods I listed above, like the pork, the cheese, eggs, milk, all those, the animal products, blood sugar, the American Heart Association recommends aiming for a dietary pattern that achieves no more than 5 to 6% from saturated fat. For example, if you're on a 2,000 calorie diet a day, no more than 120. Oh no. Oh no.
See the green light on?
Yeah, you're still recording.
Okay, good. For example, if you're on a 2,000 calorie diet a day, no more than 120 of those calories should come from saturated fats. So out of 2,000 calories, only 120 of them should come from saturated fat. That's coming from the American Heart Association's suggestions. So this is equal to about 13 grams. The American Heart Association gives a list that are alternatives to replace saturated fats. Some of the alternatives are fruits, vegetables, whole grains, low-fat dairy products, poultry, fish, and nuts. They also suggest to choose lean meats and poultry without skin and prepare them without added saturated and trans fat. Now I'm going to present to you my conclusion and remind you why it's important to limit your intake of saturated fats. In this speech, I talked about healthy and unhealthy fats, cardiovascular disease, and how saturated fats are linked to clogged arteries, which in return causes heart attacks or strokes. The American Heart Association says the more important thing to remember is the overall dietary picture. Saturated fats are a giant piece of the puzzle. In general, you cannot go wrong with eating more fruits, vegetables, or whole grains and fewer calories. Lower your chances of cardiovascular disease by cutting out these unwanted saturated fats. Don't become a part of the 735,000 Americans that have a heart attack each year.
Very good.
Thank you.
Interesting.
Isn't that interesting?